Hey, it's Mike with Not Van Porn sitting here in Westy, and I got some mail today. I wonder what it could be. Guess we should open this up, huh? Alright, so what do we get here? Awful big box. Ooh, there we go. It's the Vanagan ECU replacement kit. Or ECU wiring harness replacement kit, I should say. Right? There's a nice big Ziploc. Ooh. That's rather nice there, huh? Merry Christmas from our Westie. Alright, so taking a look at this kit, some of these wiring connectors and such like that, the connectors on the harness, all the wiring, it looks to be better than original OEM almost. I mean, maybe not quite, but considering the age of my OEM, it's definitely better than what I have for sure. And I don't have little splices and fixes all over the place. I mean, this is the new ICU connector. So looks like so far so good. Guess now we just got to start putting it in. So I brought my laptop down here to the van because Vanagan.com has the instructions of how to replace this. So we're just going to follow their instructions by the numbers and see what curves Westy throws for me and go from there. Alright, so the first thing it says to do is disconnect the battery, which is always good when you're working on anything electrical. So where the battery's at is under here, under your passenger seat. And my terminal's here under this thing. And so I'm going to go grab the right wrench and disconnect this and set this to the side so we have no power to any electrical systems in the van. Don't want to touch this to anything. It's hot. Let's see here. The reason I'm disconnecting both sides of the battery is that hot wire is awful close to the frame, and pulling it off, if I touch it, I don't want to short anything out. And if I pull this off, we can't short anything out, right? Alright, here's the first twist that Westy throws at us, is reading the Vanagan instructions, it looks like this ECU in a stock van is over farther, or there's a grommet through the firewall here. Because this is an 84 body, I don't have that, and we put this patch through here. So luckily I have this here, so I'm going to pull this ECU off the wall here. Again, mine's held on here by 2 3mm Allens and 2 Phillips in the bottom here. So I've already loosened these up and they just pop right off. So we're going to take this ECU plug off here and just pop the top little connector here up and pull that out. And we just set this to the side for now because we don't need this for a good while. Alright, so we're going to pull this off here. So I'm going to save this grommet that came with this one, because this fits in this hole, and the new grommet, I'm not sure that it's going to fit in there, but we'll give it a try. All right, next. All right, now to crawl into the van, pull that one out, and feed what I can back through, and see if I can make it follow the same paths, right? All right, we're back here on the engine side before I crawl into there. What I want to do is I'm going to release the tension on this here and see if I can pull any of this through by itself, because the harness is right here, along here, goes along here. This white wire is zip tied to it. That's the O2 sensor repair I already did, and we'll see if I can just get this out of here. Alright, there are my connectors on the other side of the firewall. I did have to pull the O2 sensor add-on I put on out because I had it wrapped around one of the wires down there. But now I just need to feed the other part back through the hole and have our harness sitting over here ready to get connected. So far, so good. Alright, so what I've done here is I've kind of laid this harness roughly where it's going to go. Here's the ECU connector. So that's going to feed through this hole right here where that light's coming from and go through the other side through my firewall hole there. I've laid this out so it's kind of in the right, the sides are by the right side, so when I feed it through there and start pulling it tight, it'll hopefully want to lay the right way. So another thing I've realized is that this grommet right here is way bigger than the one I have for the hole in the firewall. So I'm going to cut this one off and tape these wires up and cover them, and then I'll feed this through the back there. Alright, so I'll show you what I got when I'm done. Alright, so there's the spot where that grommet was on there. I've taped this up pretty decently to mostly protect the wires. Keep it, it's not really to seal it because it's already all open here, but we just don't want any much chafing of the wires, and this should all be in the engine compartment anyways. I believe this grommet will be about down here, so it'll probably be something like this. But let's go get it pushed through the firewall there and go from there. Alright, so there you have it. I was able to push most of this through. You can see there's where my grommet spot was at. We'll see how much of this I need over here and go from there. It sits about here, so it's going to be pretty close to that. But I'll wire manage this side once I get the other side all done and see what slack we have to deal with. Alright, so I've ran the harness behind my water tubes, roughly how it was ran before. And the whole harness is there, so it's still going to be kind of all gangly, and I haven't been able to do it. But the first thing it says to do is grab the green wire here and replace it with the one that's on my the temp 2 sensor, which is down my Go Westy manifold there. So I'm going to route that wire and do that next. Alright, temp wire has been swapped. Now to go down here to the coil, which is a good fun mess down here. And I want to do these wires right here. There's a ground, the green coil wire, and the brown wire. And on mine, the green wire goes to the top of the coil where the green wire comes in. And then there's a black wire down here for the black wire. So we will just get these swapped and go from there. Alright, I replaced the wires on the coil, the upper green wire, the lower red wire. I've also placed the brown wires in my grounds position. I've left this loose for now so the harness can wiggle around until I get this all in place, and then I'll come back and tighten this ground down later. Alright, so next after doing the coil is to replace the relay box connectors, which is this box right here. So we'll open this up and see how that goes. Alright, so I have the relay box open. You open it by pressing these down this way, and then lift them both at the same time. That opens this box up. So now we're going to pull these fuses off, note their positions. I'm just going to set them up here, one on one side, one on the other side. And then we'll replace these fuses, or these relay connectors, and see how that goes. So I've pulled my relay box off here by pulling this screw out here to get easier access, because if you look in here, there's these little clips in here you got to pull out, and you probably use a screwdriver to destroy. It came with another set of them, so I'm just going to put these on to place it back on once I get them on. Alright, so here's the old connector, and here's the new one. I ended up breaking one of the posts out. The other post is still good. I'm going to glue the other one back down, let it set overnight, and come back to this tomorrow. Alright, I let the glue dry up on this peg overnight, and it looks like it's good and strong, or strong enough for mounting these clips to. So I'll get those relays mounted back in here and keep on going. So after a little bit of struggle here, you can see I got the 2 pegs down there on the holes, and this one in. I'm leaving this one out for now until I get these pegs down, because it keeps popping out like it just did there. So I'm going to go in and put those locks on there and lock these breaker or the relay points back down. So my preferred tool to lock those type of these parts down, little lock clips, is a nut driver. This one happens to be a standard nut driver. It's a 1/4 inch. It'll fit around that stud just right, and I can just lock those pieces down. So let's get those locked on. Alright, so here the relay box is reassembled. You can note I got those pieces pressed down with the nut driver. Both in there, everything's locked in. This just is sitting here, but everything's nice and tight. And now I'm going to go back and look at the instructions and keep moving along. Alright, so the relays are in. And I just need to swap this connector over here now and put it here. And remount the relay box back up on its panel. And then we'll go along to the next steps in the guide. Alright, the next things on the list are the O2 sensor wires. So here's the O2 sensor wire and the heater wire. And here's my O2 sensor wire and the heater wires that I have taped here in the Mickey Mouse stuff. So, hey, that's a big stoke. I can get rid of this hodgepodge, we'll just call it, to say the least, and it'll be hooked up to the right places, and maybe this solves some of my problems. Hey, that almost looks like it's made for that. That's pretty magical. It's been many miles and maybe a couple engines ago that I actually had the right connectors on here. I'm still leaving this all just kind of temped in, because I want to clean all this up and leave room to pull the old harness out. So once I get this side done, I'll pull the old harness out and I'll see if it's worth cable managing now, or if I want to do it once I get the whole harness put in here. But we're making good progress. So all that's left on this side of the engine are these 2 fuel injector connectors, so we'll just connect those. And this is for this green with white, or white with green I should say, is for AC, which I don't have, so I'm just going to tape this up and make sure it doesn't get too much water in it very easily. But I've got these two injector ones on, and then we'll pull the rest of the harness out on this side. So on your injectors here, you'll notice there's a little spring clip right here. And when you want to put these on and off, you just push it on or off, and spring you'll hit click. If you want to pull, when you go to pull yours off, you just press that down and pull it out. So you just press it all the way on, press the clip, get it in there, and that's rock solid in there now. Both sides are in. Now I'm just going to tape this wire up and put it out of the way. Alright, next the instructions say follow the harness along, ignore these wires that are plugged together here, and just ignore them, and look for the hall sender wires. And that's the hall sender wire and the ground are these two right here. Comes off this right here, and it plugs into my distributor unit down here, and plugs into this fun chaos that I have over here. Well, it looks like this is the one in the original harness, so we'll trace this right here, trace that back, and we'll cut apart these tie wraps and see what I got to deal with, because it looks like I'm grounded to this ground nut right here, and it looks like I got to deal with a couple grounds there, and I'm not sure which wire it is, but we'll figure that out here in a few seconds. Alright, so I cut the zip ties, and this is actually fairly easy and straightforward, but it shows one of the mods to my van. So here's the hall sender wire that we put in, that I replaced a while ago, and it comes back, and here's that ground that comes out. So we're going to follow this ground back, and that ground is this wire right here. The problem is, it goes into this connector that is a multi-connector, and that actually, I'm going to leave that in there. I'm just going to snip the wire right here, because I want this. This is something one of my previous friends' old roommate did. This grounds this side of this head to a ground here on the center block, and it wraps around to another ground on the other side to the head over here. Now you shouldn't need this, but at the same time, it's work that was already done, and there's no good reason to pull it out. I'm just again going to snip this right here, unconnect this, disconnect this, and we'll reconnect that disconnect it right here, just like this. Put the new one in, and put that other ground back on. Be back in a second. Alright, so here's the hall sensor I replaced, and where it connects in. And then here's the ground I cut. So if you look down, here's the new hall sender wires and the ground for it. I'm going to take this this nut right off here, or bolt out here, ground that to there, and put that back. So I'll come back here when that's done. Alright, so that ground's on here, and you saw I dremeled this with a wire brush to clean it up. I actually dremeled the bolt too when I took it out, and I replaced the washer. So this should be decently cleaned for a good ground, or hopefully solidly cleaned for a good ground, let's put it that way. And again, that's grounded over here to where my engine ground's at. Engine ground straps right over on the other side of this block right here. It's that big red one, and that runs over to the firewall where everything else is grounded at. So, or the engine bay, I should say, firewall engine bay. And so the next thing to do is the mass airflow sensor. So you come over here, you follow this down, and we have the mass airflow. Well, I don't have a box to plug it into right now, so I guess that means it's on to the next step. We'll come back. So now for another oddity on my vehicle. The next thing you got to do is this fuel pressure wire, which is this one right here on this harness. And as you can see, I have my fuel pressure regulator has been mounted to the wall. That's because a while ago my old roommate friend replaced all my reel rails in here, all with stainless steel. Now that makes some issues sometimes, like with this mount here, and I gotta fix this. I'm gonna do this hose here soon again, because I've actually had a puncture in this hose. And this is a teed style. That's the original one. I have this Mickey Mouse on here so that wouldn't bulge. I bought a new fuel pressure regulator, but it has the wrong barbs here, and I gotta find another one that's the right one. So that'll be an upcoming project too at some point. Hopefully sooner or later, because this is kind of a hokey thing on fuel, and I've already had leaks, and that's not a good thing because no one wants a fire, right? So I've pulled my fuel pump hot wire here off and pulled the tape off of it, and that doesn't look all that great. Let's see, there you go. I'm gonna re-crimp this. It's long story short because I don't like the way that looks. So we'll come back after I re-crimp this, and we'll reroute these wires, pull the old wires out from behind the fuel pump, and try to get the new ones back there. Or not fuel pump, I should say, the fuel pressure regulator. My bad. Alright, so there you have it. I put a new connector on this fuel pump wire and heat shrunk it with a heat shrink connector, and that should be pretty darn good. I'm actually going to skip the step of connecting this for now because I realized to get these wires out of here I need to disconnect the throttle body wire and reroute the ICU wire and such. So I'm going to do that now and reroute that and get that all installed, and we'll come back with that all hopefully looking much better. Alright, I've got the wiring harness back behind the fuel pressure regulator here, and I've ran the wires. Just pretend I didn't do that because that's not the way the steps are in there, right? And it's my van, and you know how this goes. So what we're going to do here is, you can see I have the single wire, so we're going to connect the single wire. We're going to put this connector on here, and we're going to see if this looks like it wants to be taped up or not, because you know how I am about that. I like to keep everything nice and taped up. But the brown wire one here won't be used. It'll just sit to the side. I don't have to worry about that one because it's the ground. But we'll just get this hooked up here and see what that looks like here in a second. Alright, that's connected and not taped up. I'm going to see how this works for now. It looks like it sits here rather well and doesn't really need to be taped. So I'm going to continue on to the next step in the book or in the manual, and let's see what that looks like. Alright, the next few steps are really simple. It's these throttle position switch needs to be plugged in. The air conditioning wires need to go somewhere. I've just taped together for now, and I'm going to hold them out of the way. And the next one to do is, of course, well, we can do this right here on camera, is get the idle control unit plugged in. There we go, that's plugged in, and I'll get the throttle position switch plugged in. And I bet the next thing is probably the O2, the fuel injector wires, right? But we'll check on the manual on that. Alright, so I just reviewed the manual again. The only things we have left are these fuel injectors here, which are these wires right here. And then we will just wire manage this and get to the point that I can do the idle control ones next, because that's all that's left after these fuel injectors. So let's see what I can make this look like. Well, there you have it. My old harness is out. The new harness is in. I just have to wire manage this all in. I noticed that this clip back here does not actually wrap around the harness. This one did. I'm not sure about this one yet, but I'll manage this all in and make it look a little bit better now. And we'll come back once I'm done there with that. But so far, so good, huh? Alright, we have one thing we skipped when we hooked up. I got my air box back in here now. You want to find that air box connector wherever you had it down there. Hopefully you have it not too badly fished in there. And you just want to get that connected back on here. Snap, you heard that snap. That's on there good and tight. The other thing I'm going to give you as a good hint, make sure this nut for this band is good and tight and this is not going to fall off. I had that fall off once before when I was driving down the road and my van just stopped running and I couldn't figure it out. But I now have this connected. This hasn't been connected for a while, the ICU, because of the issues I was having. Hopefully they've gone away. Fingers crossed. Everything else is clean, is installed here. I ran the O2 sensors wires up here. These are my other oil pressure and temperature wires that I haven't got quite hooked up yet. Well, oil pressure is hooked up. And everything else is down here. This looks like this is the dash temperature sensor right here. So we may or may not reroute this at some point, but this is off the old original stock harness. But that doesn't matter for the engine running, right? That's just the sensor up front in the dash. So I'm going to turn this over and see how this runs and make sure it runs once I get the battery reconnected. And we'll come back with that point. So as I was doing the battery, I realized I skipped an important step. I forgot to connect the ECU still. So I'm going to put the grommet on here and get the ECU installed and its ground wire reconnected. And we'll come back here in a second. Alright, there you go. ECU's mounted. It's been grounded. It's been routed to the firewall. I'll have to deal with my remaking a patch here, because with this hole in here, it's really loud. But I really want to get something welded in here and properly put in. But that's a little beyond my skills right now. But maybe I'll buy a welder and have at it, huh? Alright, so here's the moment of truth. I got the battery reconnected. We got lights on in here. We're going to unlock the steering wheel that's locked. Alright, we got good dashy flashlights. Alright, let's see if this thing fires up. Well, that's not a good sign. I wonder what I left disconnected, huh? So this wire right here, this plug was disconnected. And remember there was 3 wires on here before, and I removed one, which was the hot for my heater for the O2 sensor. And I plugged it in, and I heard the whole system power up. So we're going to go give the system a start now. Alright, here we go. Take 2. Well, that's a much better sound. We have fuel pressure back there. Let's give it a kick over. Well, it still sounds like my idle's high, but we'll go give it a test drive in the morning and see how that works out. Alright, here we go. Test drive time, huh? Moment of truth. Cross your fingers. Still idling really high. Camera doesn't fall over here. Alright, so there you go. I just replaced that engine wiring harness, took it for a test drive, and Westy runs smooth as silk for all practical purposes. The idle's still high, but
that's probably the idle control valve, and I saw a article on Samba about how to replace that, so we'll give that a try, and maybe we'll do that on another video. But I'm gonna go take Westy for breakfast and see how it continues to run. Hopefully everything's good. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time.